So we're here today with Earl Griffin, Jr., attorney at law, and we're just going to chat about some regularly asked legal questions. And one that we get quite often is about grandparent rights. And so, Earl, could you tell us maybe what one of the most common questions about grandparent rights is?
What are my rights as a grandparent?
And what is the answer to that?
The answer to that is it depends on the circumstances. Grandparents no longer have a mandatory right to access to and visitation with grandchildren unless under certain circumstances. If the grandchildren have been in their home for over 6 months, if they've been placed there by CPS, or if there's a divorce action or a modification pending between the parents, the grandparents can intervene. But grandparents cannot bring an original action for possession or visitation with grandchildren. They basically are in a position where they only come in if they intervene to be named the primary or managing conservator.
So if I'm a grandparent and my child, who's a parent of my grandchildren, obviously does not have primary custody, and I'm not getting to see my grandchildren, and I have had a really good and regular relationship with them, but because of the pending divorce action, I'm not getting to see my grandchildren, or certainly not getting to see them as much as I would like to. What can I do about that?
Unfortunately, your rights are coexistent with your daughter's rights. If you can only exercise visitation when she has the children or when the parents agree. You don't have independent rights to have access to the children ordered by the court unless you're filing an intervention based on the grandchildren living with you 6 months, or CPS placement, or if you can allege and show evidence of a serious immediate question affecting the grandchildren's mental or emotional or physical well-being. Unless you're allowed to intervene, then you can intervene.
So basically it's my adult child, the parent, when they have their period of visitation, to make sure that I'm getting to see my grandchild or grandchildren during their period of visitation.
As to visitation, yes.
Okay.
You are limited by your child's, and even if your child denies you, it's that child's prerogative to do so. Again, unless you can show those other factors.
And is that how it's always been, or is this a change?
This is a change. The Texas Family Code for many years had where grandparents could seek and get visitation as grandparents because they were grandparents. The Troxel decision out of the state of Washington went to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court said no, grandparents don't have the same right as a parent. A parent's rights are constitutional, and they preempt a grandparent's rights. So the status of grandparent doesn't give you any unique relationship to your grandchild, which most of us grandparents seriously resent and do not agree with that decision. But Troxel's still the law of the land at this time.
So if I'm a grandparent and I'm not getting to see my grandchildren, and I think maybe I have a case, or I want to just check and see if I do, is that something that I can come in and visit with you about and find out whether or not I do have a case?
Yes. You need to bring two things with you if you have access. If there's any court orders affecting the grandchildren as between the parents, and you have copies or can get copies of those, and you need to bring in a little chronology of what your relationship with the grandchildren has been. Do they just visit, or have they lived there for a period of time? Did either parent live with the grandchildren in your home with you? Has there been any CPS involvement? And also, is there any family violence allegations between the parents?
Well, I appreciate that, and as I said, it is a question that we get here a lot in the office, and wanted to be able to discuss and go over, so that it might help some people decide whether or not they had a case and why or why not they may have a case. And I appreciate you visiting with us and educating us on that. And do you have anything else that you'd like to add before we close out?
As a grandparent, I'm real conscious of how grandparents feel, and that there is a unique relationship factually at least, between a grandparent and many grandchildren. The law at this point has changed, and I think for the worse. I do not agree with I can agree with the legal precedents and the legal argument, but I think on a factual basis, it limits what many grandchildren need when a divorce is going on, and that is a closer tie to their grandparents.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to visit with us, and until next time, thank you.